Hello everyone, welcome to the last video in our 5-part series on making a report in the online Power BI app, Power BI report in the online app. And for this last part we're going to make a scatter plot. And again, the data we're working with here are these data from the World Bank. We have female labor force participation and GDP per capita, and we're going to display basically the relationship of GDP per capita and female labor force participation, taking the average of each variable for each country from 1997 through 2021. Okay, so that's what's in our data, and we have our table open over here, and so we're going to go and start with our scatter chart by again click on visualizations. And then once you're in visualizations, you can find the icon for scatter chart. It's over here, and click on that and it should show up right here in the corner. Make sure though that you're not clicked on any of these other visualizations, because it'll try to turn that into a scatter plot and you don't want that to happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define what's going to be on the x-axis, and that's going to be GDP per capita. So let's go ahead and drag GDP per capita over to the x-axis. And again, we want the average, not the sum. So let's say average, okay? And then female labor force participation is going to go on the y-axis, okay? And then for the scatter plot, we also have to define what the values are going to be. And here the values, we're going to select country code. We could also have country name, but we're going to use country code later. I'll show you that in a minute, why we want country code there in a minute. But basically there we go. We have our scatter plot, and now we can start to modify it a little bit. So let's go into focus mode here, and let's go over here to format your visual. And let's go to the x-axis, and as you can notice, a lot of the values for the GDP per capita, average GDP per capita, are bunched over here on the left. So this is a variable that typically we would want to have on a log scale because there's so much bunching, because it's not normally distributed. So we can go ahead and just, rather than converting the values themselves into log values, we can go ahead and stretch the axis by just clicking on logarithmic scale, and what that does is that transforms the axis for us, and then we can see the values more evenly distributed. Okay, what I'm noticing here about the y-axis is that actually we want to go back here to the add data tab real quick, and we want to change this from sum to average. We want female labor force participation to be an average as well. I sort of missed that step. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. All right, so let's head back to the report, and we'll be able to see the fruit of our labor there. That looks like a much better scatter plot with the x-axis now stretched out on a logarithmic scale, and we can go ahead and we can start to make some other changes. So one thing we might want to do, let's go back to format your visual. We can go to category labels here, and we can turn category labels on, and then what we'll see is the country codes actually displayed next to the little dots, so we know which country we're looking at in the scatter plot. It is a little bit crowded there, but you can make out a lot of the country codes there, and that is a nice touch. One other thing we can do is we can add a trend line. So we can turn trend line on, and we can sort of see it faintly there. But maybe we wanted it to be a different color. Let's have it be red, and we can also make it a solid color so that it jumps out at us a little more. And there we see, according to this trend line, a positive relationship between GDP per capita and female labor force participation. Really, we'd want to draw a curvilinear trend line, or define a polynomial of some sort, but we can't really do that with this app. So we're just going to have to be satisfied with a linear trend line, or at least I don't know of a way to do that with this app. So, but in any case, that's a pretty decent scatter plot, and what we can go ahead and do is then just tidy it up a little bit. We can fix the title of the x-axis rather than calling it average of GDP per capita. We can just call it GDP per capita. Whoops. There we go. And then maybe change the y-axis title as well to female labor force participation FLFP %. There we go. Then go over to the general tab. You guys should be familiar with this now. By now, after doing this a few times for the other visualizations, go to the general tab, go to title, and then instead of average GDP, we can call this maybe something more interesting and informative. Instead of this long title, we can call it wealth and female labor force participation. Okay. All right, and that's it. That's our scatter plot. And we can actually go ahead and start clicking on countries in the scatter plot, and then that will interact with the other two visualizations if we want to do it that way. Another way we can do it is if we want to just click on countries either on the column chart or on the map. It'll show us where they are on the scatter plot, on the x and the y axis individually, right? And we can click on any country, whether they're in the column chart like these countries here, the BRICS countries, or we can just select on countries that are not necessarily in the column charts, so like the United States there, and it should show us in the scatter plot where the United States is, and there you go. So that's quite nice, and that is pretty much it. We can change the view if we want. We can go into a different view. But let's go ahead and save the changes first. All right, and let's try the reading view here. And that looks a little bit better, much larger, and then there are many options up here in this tab to share with other people. You have to have either the Pro version or trial version of Pro to share a link, but you can get a trial version for like 60 days and go ahead and share your visualization, your report with your professor, your friends. And in my students' case, it's going to be with me, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so that's the end of our project. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Take care and see you next time.